Job 38 through 40 and 42. God's perspective is greater than mine. Frustrated with his friend's accusations, Job repeatedly asked God why he had to suffer so much. The Lord did not give a clear reason in the book of Job, but he did teach an important message in these chapters. How would you summarize that message? For example, what do you learn from the Lord's questions in these verses? So let's summarize these chapters and see what message or what lesson God is teaching Job. So then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known, and you make it known to me." So he's like, "Okay, now you're going to answer my questions. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, Thus far shall you come and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stayed? Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light, and where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, that you may discern the paths to its home? You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the torrents of rain, and a way for the thunderbolt to bring rain on a land where no man is, on the desert in which there is no man? To satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth, and who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season, or can you guide the bear with its children? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish the rule on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that a flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, Here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can tilt the waterskins of the heavens? When the dust runs into a mass, and the clods stick fast together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions, when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait in their thicket? Who provides for the raven its prey, when its young ones cry to God for help and wander about for lack of food? I think God is making a point here. And then it goes on for all of chapter 39, a lot more examples. Oh, and then in chapter 40 he said to Job, Shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? He who argues with God, let him answer it. So that's the ESV. The JKV says, Shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproveth God, let him answer. So something I found striking about chapters 38 and 39, where God is making it clear what his powers are. He's using what? What is the content of his argument.
Symbolism?
He's using symbolism, but he also, like, what is the actual content? What is the metaphor he's using? Well, it's not even a metaphor. This is real, right? I'll just tell you what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Nature. So what is something that Elder Gong told us to do recently when he was talking about AI?
Well, did you watch that?
Two words. What's the two words he used at the end or near the end?
Control it.
It's kind of a Gen Z slang. Touch grass. You guys know what that means?
Yes.
Touch grass outside?
He said that?
Yeah.
Wait, does touch grass mean go outside touch grass?
Why did he say to touch grass?
Because it's real, it's reality. And AI is not real.
Reality.
It's a
So
reality check.
why would an apostle have to tell the world to touch grass? What is the problem
Because
here?
we're out of touch with reality.
We're out of touch with reality. Well, what brings us back to reality?
For touching real things.
What's the most real thing on this earth?
Go with that.
Nature. God's creation, right? You guys are God's creation. So for 2 chapters, God is outlining all of the stuff that he created and has power over, and all of it are organic materials. They're creations by his hand, right? Can I touch my computer? Is that real?
Yeah.
No,
It is real.
I mean, kind of. I mean,
So the computer's real, right? What's interesting about that is that it is a mechanical device that I would have to physically interact with if I needed to ever fix anything, or I would have to like take it apart. I've done that to a computer before where I've opened it up, I've replaced the monitor, I've looked at the motherboard, I've put chips in. I haven't done too much because I'm not that tech whizzy, but I've had to interact physically with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the unreality that Elder Gong was talking about that we need to not make our reality?
The screen. The fake visual part.
Yeah, it's a created digital
Fake.
world that can create false realities.
It's a virtual insanity.
So one of the things that I realized growing up in Idaho around farmers and ranchers is that the people who are the most tied to reality are the people who have to work with the land. Farmers and ranchers have to interact with the reality of this world more than anybody else. They put their hands in the dirt every single day, right?
And it feels weird.
They have to deal with the reality of what makes plants grow. They can't want something to be a certain way and hope it will work out. There is just a reality of how plants grow. There's a reality of how animals need to be taken care of if they're going to be healthy, right? As a mother, there's a reality about what makes you guys healthy. And so I adhere to that as much as possible because my goal is not to create my own reality in which everything is the way I want it to be. It's to make what the best of what we have, and the best of what we have is reality, is tied to reality. Something that will help us all. Like Satan knows that the further we get from touching grass, essentially, the more easily he can manipulate our minds because we're in a realm of unlimited possibility. And when you're in a land of theory and in a land of make-believe, anything is possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a country that is so prosperous that you can have 3 degrees of separation from reality and still exist and be alive.
And no degrees.
Oh, I mean, the reason that people are disparaging higher education today is because it's a land of theories, and they've gotten lost in that land of theories. They have not anchored to reality enough to give people a proper foothold in how things work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they're churning out people who are living in an alternate reality in their minds, and it's just not matching up with the results of their actions in this world. I just watched again. I was watching those Aussie Man reviews, and he did a review of ray gun from the Olympics. And it can't be more clear what an alternate reality in someone's mind looks like compared to reality when you watch that performance.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the most telling part of the whole thing was when she was finished and she walked off of that stage. She had so much swagger. In her mind, she killed it. And 8 billion other people watched it and said, that was ridiculous. That is not what breakdancing is. I just brought it up because it was just such a distinct example of this principle. You know, if she would have spent less time studying it in a university in the land of theories and gone out to the street where it was created and where it was perfected and where it's masterfully executed, she would have felt like a fool if she would have tried to do any of that stuff she pulled in the Olympics. But she didn't have that. She created a world in which what she did was real.
I think the first question.
And so it was just a stark moment of the
Reality.
false reality that people can create in which they think that this is the world that they live in and it's just the world that they created. Because in the real world, there is a God who, like all of those things I just read in 38, went on through 39. There is a world created by God, and He is the master of it. He literally created it and is the master of it. And then we sit here and have all this leeway to make our choices, to use our agency. And when we find out that God's not going to strike us down for every mistake we make, we just go, oh, well, forget Him. I'm going to go do what I want. Until we literally do forget Him. And Satan knows how to pull us away from God in this reality, in this world that we live in. He's created a place for people to exist far removed from God and His natural laws. And there's a reason why most farmers are conservative, because they touch grass all the time. Most of the time, that's what they're doing.
They're living in reality.
Is having to contend with the natural laws of this world. Because if they didn't do it on a realistic basis, they would just completely fail. Job responds. Job answered the Lord and said, behold, I am of small account. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand on my mouth. I have spoken once and I will not answer twice, but I will proceed no further. So I feel like Job is a good example in a lot of ways, and in this way, he's a good example of how to be humble when you're reprimanded, how to not be defensive, how to not make excuses, and just accept the reality. But we talked a lot about how Job believes in God and knows what is good and knows that he's doing good, right? So when he's questioning God, like, why I am righteous, why are you doing this? And God's answer is just like, I am God. And he's kind of highlighted all this stuff as an illustration of who he is and what he does, right? And Job's answer is, I'm sorry, I will not say anything else. Then the Lord challenges Job. The Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Will you even put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be in the right? Have you an arm like God? Can you thunder with a voice like this? Adorn yourself with majesty and dignity. Clothe yourself with glory and splendor. Pour out the overflowings of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud and abase him. Look on everyone who is proud and bring them low, and tread down the wicked where they stand. Hide them all in the dust together, bind their faces in the world below. Then will I also acknowledge to you that your own right hand can save you. So he talks about behemoth, and I don't know who he's talking about.
Obviously a very large guy.
It says, the footnote says, a large animal, exact identity uncertain. So I don't know, my interaction with nature is like, it's terrifying. Have you guys ever swam in the ocean? Just how relentless the waves are. You can't do anything to stop them, and you can't do anything to make them weaker than you. If you go stand in the ocean where the waves are coming in, just try to make it do what you want.
It's a good thing.
You'll notice that the Lord spoke to Job about some of his creations and other mighty works. You might look at some of those creations. How do these things help you think differently about God and about your trials? And how do they change Job's perspective? So it's interesting because God doesn't say, this is why you're experiencing all of this. He doesn't give him a reason. So Job says, I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know. Hear, and I will speak. I will question you, and you make it known to me. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. Something that we can do is learn from others' experiences when they talk about it. And I think that that's a really humbling experience too. I think this is a strong, realistic experience. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. You think you know, but do you know? So, listening to all these things that God has to say about who he is, does that change the way you think about him? Well, I think that first of all, we have to change the way that we approach life. So, bringing up the Odyssey again, something that I noticed with there's a whole controversy about the new Odyssey movie that was made. Something that I noticed because I went and started reading the poem. But I think the biggest problem with every film adaptation of the poem is how secular they are. Yeah, well, when you listen to the poem, the whole thing centers around devotion to gods. Like everything that happens is because of gods. Everything that they respond, they get a consequence because of the gods.
But
It's
I need to do this because of Zeus.
right. Or Zeus commanded it, or I need to pay tribute to Zeus, everything that they do, they're a very God-centered society. And I think that the big problem with the Odyssey adaptations is that they almost completely eliminate theism from this world. So when you go about this life without God as the center of it, the creator of it, the mover of all things, then you are living in an alternate reality. You are experiencing God's creation without understanding that he is in it and he is still creating it and he is still over it, right? And so you create an understanding of it without the central aspect of it.
Right.
And people have done that, and they can say they can observe it and they can come to some true understandings about it, but they do not attribute it to God. They attribute it to some natural occurrence, right? Like this is how nature just occurs. And they don't attribute it to a creator who empowers it still. Like life exists because of God's power that is giving it life. And they do not attribute any of this stuff that they're observing to an alive, powerful being that is overseeing it. So, first of all, you have to live your life as if there is a God watching you all the time. So, I mean, that's the first thing. Do you live your life that way? Do you lose sight of that sometimes?
Always.
When you're like caught up in a desire of yours to do something or have something, or You go, it's your God and the world suddenly becomes you. Like it's all about you making what you want happen.
Yeah.
So I think in a lot of the things that you do, first of all, you have to remember God.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you have to give glory to God. And then you can contemplate who God is. And then you can contemplate how he interacts with you. So, how did God teaching Job who he is, how did that change his perspective?
Well, same as Moses' perspective made him feel more.
There's a reference to Moses right here. Made him feel more what? Well, it can motivate you knowing what you're engaged in for sure. Like knowing the majesty of what you're engaged in can really empower you for sure. But it also humbles you to know just how insignificant you are in comparison to God's glory.
Mm-hmm.
In Moses, it says, it came to pass that Moses looked and beheld the world upon which he was created, and he beheld the world and the ends thereof, and all the children of men which are and which were created. Of the same he greatly marveled and wondered. And the presence of God withdrew from Moses, that his glory was not upon Moses. And Moses was left unto himself, and as he was left unto himself, he fell unto the earth. And it came to pass that it was for the space of many hours before Moses did again receive his natural strength like unto man. And he said unto himself, Now for this cause I know that man is nothing, which thing I had never supposed. When you interact with divinity, it kind of just teaches you that everything on this earth that we've created to feel good is just a counterfeit of what is real, you know? And if you seek after the real power and the real love and the real truth, you're willing to put up with all these other pains and sorrows in order to have it with you.
So Sriracha's not the real deal.
Well, one of the criticisms of our church is that Joseph Smith was a charlatan who was just trying to be a cult leader and get a bunch of followers to do it, give him a bunch of money and do what he wants and all these things. But
He did not come out a rich man.
one of the things that Elder Holland pointed out was they knew they were going to die when that mob came. And what were they doing before they came? They were reading the Book of Mormon. And if you know that your life is about to end, would you really be reading the book that you made up to trick people? So this work, this power that God put on the earth, and this scripture that he gave us to help us understand it is the most real thing, and they were willing to give up their lives for it. Like nothing on this earth was as powerful or important as that. You're often going to be standing at a fork in the road between two choices. Are you going to choose God's path or the one that seems like glory for you? You're gonna you're gonna come to that fork in the road a lot of times where you have to choose which one you're gonna walk down. And you guys, it seems like an easy decision right now, but when you come to that fork in the road, everything inside of you could want this way. But then God could tell you that his path is this way. And then you start to question everything. Because everything in you wants this. How could it be wrong?
Because everything in me wants it.
So, I mean, you could do everything and you could want God's path. It's just you're going to come to those moments where you are going to have to figure out which one is God's path and be willing to put that first. And that doesn't have to be big life decisions either. It could just be in how you treat each other. Everything inside of you could want to reprimand your sister or seek revenge on her for something she's done to you. But is that, well, vengeance could be like yelling or saying you can't ever touch my stuff again or, that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's all well and good to know these things, but we have to figure out how we're going to actualize them in our lives. So, what do you guys think will help you to remember God and remember who he is and remember your relationship with him as you go through life? And remember, you're going to be making decisions every 5 seconds of your life, you know? So, what can you do to help you remind you of what you learned? One thing I was doing for a few days, your dad gave me a blessing and told me to be loving and compassionate because I struggle with that apparently.
What?
And so I wrote love and compassion on my wrist. And I tell you guys not to write on yourselves, but that was really just a reminder. So for a couple of days, I was writing love and compassion on my wrist. And you know what? It actually really helped. And it made my days way more spiritual and loving because I was reminding myself to be loving and compassionate. Maybe I'll make a bracelet or something that says love and compassion on it so that it can be a constant reminder to be loving and compassionate. Okay, well, I think we're gonna be done.
Love you, Mama.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.